The sound of Derek's laughter wasn't just loud, it was destructive. It bounced off the mahogany walls of the conference room, stripping away 10 years of marriage in a single cruel moment. He wasn't just leaving Evelyn, he was enjoying it. He pointed at her trembling hands as she signed the papers that left her with nothing but a beat-up sedan and a suitcase of clothes while he kept the mansion, the stocks, and the life they built together. "Look at her," he sneered to his lawyer. "She's terrified. She wouldn't survive a day in the real world without my credit card." Derek thought the story ended there. He thought he had discarded a broken woman, but he forgot one crucial detail. Evelyn wasn't crying because she was weak. She was crying because she knew exactly who and what she was about to unleash. And when he saw her 3 weeks later stepping out of a Rolls-Royce Phantom on the arm of the city's most elusive billionaire, Derek didn't laugh. He stopped breathing. The air conditioning in the law offices of Stratton Miller and Associates was set to a freezing temperature, but it was nothing compared to the chill radiating from the man sitting across the table. Derek Vance adjusted the cuffs of his Italian silk suit, a smug grin plastered on his face. He looked like a man who had just closed the deal of the century, not a man who was ending a decade-long marriage to the woman who had nursed him through pneumonia, edited his business proposals, and managed his life so he could climb the corporate ladder. "Are we done here?" Derek asked, checking his Rolex. "I have a reservation at Le Bernardin at 8. I'd hate to be late." Evelyn sat opposite him, her hands folded in her lap. She wore a simple gray dress, one she had owned for 5 years. She looked small in the oversized leather chair. To the lawyers present, she looked like the quintessential defeated housewife, aging tired and out of her depth. Just one more signature, Mrs. Vance. Derek's lawyer. A shark-eyed man named Mr. Henderson said smoothly. He slid the document across the polished oak table. "This confirms that you waive all rights to the Vance Holdings shares and the property in the Hamptons in exchange for the lump sum alimony payment of $50,000. $50,000. It was an insult. It was less than what Derek spent on his country club membership in a single year. But Evelyn didn't argue. She didn't scream. She had spent the last 6 months listening to Derek tell her she was worthless, that she had contributed nothing to his success, and that she was merely a parasite he was tired of feeding. She picked up the pen. Her hand trembled slightly, not from fear, though Derek interpreted it that way, but from a mixture of rage and adrenaline. "Go on, Evelyn," Derek goaded, leaning forward. His eyes danced with malice. "Sign it. Release yourself from the burden of trying to keep up with me. We both know you were never cut out for this altitude. You're a small-town girl who got lucky. The luck just ran out." Evelyn looked up, locking eyes with him. "Is that what you think this was? Luck?" Derek laughed, a sharp barking sound. "Of course. You think you helped? Because you made sure my socks were matched? Because you hosted a few dinner parties? Evelyn, please. I built this empire. I am the brand. You were just decoration. And frankly, the decoration has gone out of style." He turned to Mr. Henderson and chuckled. "Look at her face. She's terrified. She's realizing that tomorrow morning she has to actually work for a living. It's pathetic, really." Evelyn looked down at the paper. She could fight this. She knew where the bodies were buried, financially speaking. She knew about the offshore accounts in the Caymans. She knew about the shell company Vortex Solutions that he used to funnel money out of the joint account. But fighting meant dragging this out. Fighting meant staying connected to Derek for another year. And she didn't want his money. She wanted something else. She wanted him to realize on his own exactly what he had lost. She signed her name, Evelyn Marie Vance. "There," she whispered. Derek snatched the papers before the ink was even dry, scanning them to ensure she hadn't tried any tricks. "Finally," he breathed out, standing up and buttoning his jacket. "You have until noon tomorrow to get the rest of your things out of the house. I'm having the locks changed at 12:01. "I'm already packed," Evelyn said quietly, standing up. She grabbed her purse. "Good." Derek didn't even look at her. He was already typing on his phone, likely texting Sasha, the 24-year-old marketing intern he had been mentoring for the last 6 months. "Oh, and Evelyn?" She paused at the heavy glass door. "Don't come crawling back when the money runs out," he called out, not bothering to lower his voice. "I don't do charity." Evelyn didn't look back. She walked out of the office past the receptionists, who looked at her with pity, and into the elevator. As the door slid shut, effectively cutting off the sound of Derek's triumphant voice, Evelyn slumped against the metal wall. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The mask dropped. The look of defeat vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp determination. She reached into her purse and pulled out a burner phone, an old model she had kept hidden in the spare tire well of her car for 3 months. She dialed a number she hadn't called in 12 years. It rang once. Twice. "Hello?" A deep, gravelly voice answered. It sounded like power and whiskey. "It's done," Evelyn said, her voice steady. "I'm divorced. I'm free." There was a pause on the other end, followed by a low chuckle. "About time, Evelyn. The industry has been boring without you. When can you start tonight?" Evelyn replied, stepping out of the elevator into the lobby. "But Jackson, nobody knows it's me, not yet." "Your secret is safe with me," Jackson Thorne, the billionaire CEO of Thorne Enterprises, replied. "Welcome back to the game, Ghost." 2 weeks had passed since the divorce was finalized. For Derek Vance, life was a continuous stream of champagne congratulations and validation. He felt lighter. Without Evelyn's nagging, which was actually her reminding him of legal compliances he constantly tried to ignore, he felt invincible. He sat in the VIP booth of the Gilded Cage, the city's most exclusive nightclub. Next to him sat Sasha, wearing a dress that cost more than Evelyn's car. She was laughing loudly at his jokes, hanging on his arm and looking at him with wide, adoring eyes. "You're so bad, Derek," Sasha giggled, taking a sip of her martini. "I can't believe you told her she had to be out by noon." "It's business, babe," Derek said, puffing on a cigar. "In business, you cut the dead weight." Evelyn was dead weight. She was holding me back. She didn't understand the vision. She wanted to save money. I wanted to make money. Now, with the merger coming up with Thorne Enterprises, I need to be free to operate. His friend Mark, a fellow executive, clinked his glass against Derek's. "To freedom, and to the Thorne deal. You think you've got it in the bag?" Derek scoffed. "Please. Jackson Thorne is a shark, but he's desperate for our tech. I'm the only game in town. I've got a meeting with his acquisition team next week. I'm going to squeeze them for every penny." Derek didn't mention that the tech he was selling, a predictive algorithm for stock market fluctuations, was actually based on a mathematical model Evelyn had sketched out on a napkin 5 years ago. He had taken it, refined it with his team, and claimed the credit. He had convinced himself that he was the genius. After all, Evelyn was just a housewife with a math degree she never used. She couldn't possibly understand the complexities of what he had built. "What's she doing now?" Mark asked, smirking. "The X." Derek waved his hand dismissively. "Who cares? Last I heard, she moved into some rinky-dink apartment in the East End. Probably working as a cashier or something. It's better this way. She can live a simple life and I can rule the world." The music pumped louder and Derek felt like a king. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, the atmosphere was very different. Evelyn sat in a minimalist high-tech office overlooking the skyline. This wasn't a rinky-dink apartment. It was the penthouse suite of the Thorne Tower, a space accessible only by a private elevator and biometric security. She wasn't wearing her drab gray dress anymore. She was wearing a tailored black power suit, her hair pulled back in a sharp, elegant bun. She stood in front of a massive glass whiteboard covered in complex equations, market trends, and corporate hierarchies. Sitting on the leather sofa behind her was Jackson Thorne. He was 50 years old, handsome in a rugged way, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing. He was one of the wealthiest men in the country, known for destroying his competition. But looking at Evelyn, his expression was one of immense respect. "So," Jackson said, studying the whiteboard, "this is Vance Holdings' projection for Q3. It's a fantasy, Evelyn said, capping her marker. Derek is cooking the books. He's projecting revenue based on the algorithm, but he doesn't know how to update the core code. I wrote the source code, Jackson. Without the patch I designed 6 months ago, the system will start giving false positives by next week. Jackson raised an eyebrow. He doesn't have the patch. No. Evelyn turned a small, cold smile playing on her lips. He never asked for it. He was too busy moving Sasha into the guest bedroom. Jackson laughed. So he's trying to sell me a broken engine. He's trying to sell you a ticking time bomb, Evelyn corrected. He thinks he's walking into a negotiation next week to dictate terms. He has no idea that the ghost consultant you hired to vet the company is me. Jackson stood up and walked over to the window standing beside her. They looked out at the city lights. You know, Evelyn, when you left the finance world 10 years ago to marry him, we all thought you were crazy. You were the brightest analyst on Wall Street. You disappeared. I was in love, Evelyn said, her voice tinged with regret. I thought he was brilliant. I wanted to support him. I poured everything I knew into him. I made him look smart. I made him look competent. I thought we were a team. And he treated you like an accessory. Jackson finished. Worse, Evelyn said. He treated me like I was invisible. He laughed at me, Jackson. In that lawyer's office, he laughed. She tightened her grip on the marker. I don't want to just ruin his deal. I want to dismantle his ego. I want him to know exactly who he threw away. Jackson nodded. The annual Obsidian Gala is this Saturday. It's the biggest event of the season. Anyone will be there. Derek will be there trying to schmooze the board members before the meeting. Evelyn looked at Jackson. I know. I need a date, Jackson said, a mischievous glint in his eye. Someone who knows the industry. Someone elegant. Someone who can help me. Evaluate potential partners. Evelyn finally smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. It wasn't the smile of a victim. It was the smile of a predator. I'd love to go, she said. But I have nothing to wear. Derek kept all my clothes. Jackson pulled a platinum credit card from his pocket and set it on the table. The best stylists in the city are on speed dial. Get whatever you want. And Evelyn? Yes. Don't hold back. If he wants a show, let's give him a blockbuster. The morning of the Obsidian Gala, Evelyn woke up, not in the cramped guest bedroom she had occupied for the last year of her marriage, but in a king-sized bed with Egyptian cotton sheets that felt like silk against her skin. She sat up, catching her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling mirror across the room. For a second she expected to see the tired woman with the messy bun and the dark circles under her eyes, the woman Derek had called exhausted goods. But the sleep had done wonders. The stress lines that had etched themselves into her forehead were fading. At 10:00 a.m. the doorbell rang. It wasn't a neighbor complaining about noise. It was a team of 5 people led by a man in a sharp tuxedo jacket and ripped jeans. Ms. Vance, he asked, though he quickly corrected himself. Apologies, Ms. Ghost. Mr. Thorne sent us. I am Claude. We are here to excavate the Queen from the ruins. Evelyn smiled. Excavate away, Claude. For the next 6 hours, Evelyn was scrubbed, polished, and painted. It wasn't just a makeover, it was a restoration. As the hairstylist worked, Evelyn closed her eyes and remembered the last time she had tried to dress up for Derek. It was their anniversary 2 years ago. She had bought a red dress, something a little tighter than usual. When she walked into the living room, Derek hadn't complimented her. He had frowned. You look desperate, Evelyn. Red isn't your color. It makes you look flushed. And that cut. You're not 25 anymore. Go change into the black one. We're meeting investors. I need you to look respectable, not like you're hunting for a husband. She had cried in the bathroom for 10 minutes, then changed into the shapeless black sack he preferred. Open your eyes, darling. Claude's voice snapped her back to the present. Evelyn opened them. The woman in the mirror was a stranger. Her hair, usually limp and pulled back, was now a cascade of glossy chestnut waves that framed her face perfectly. Her skin glowed with a luminous warmth. Her eyes, which Derek said were plain brown, were now accentuated with smoky gold and bronze, making them look like pools of amber. But it was the dress that stole the breath from her lungs. Jackson hadn't chosen a safe black gown. He had commissioned a piece from a vanguard designer in Milan. It was a deep, iridescent midnight blue, the color of a stormy ocean. It was strapless, sculpting her body with a corset-like structure before flowing down into a dramatic train that shimmered as if it were woven from crushed sapphires. It featured a slit that went high up her thigh, daring, dangerous, and unapologetic. "The jewelry," Claude whispered, opening a velvet box. Inside sat a necklace of white diamonds and sapphires that looked heavy enough to sink a small boat. "This," Claude said, fastening it around her neck, "is the Star of the North. It's on loan from the vault, value